Hello, welcome to this demonstration video. Today I will show you how SIP-Caller works and the main features that we provide. SIP-Caller is an outbound dialer that works with your existing phone system. This way we make calls through your own phone lines. Your customers will see your own number as the caller's number, and if they decide to call you back, they will reach you directly. One of the important things of SIP-Caller is that you don't need to install anything in your phone system. We connect to your phone system as a remote extension, and this way you don't need to install plugins or anything that might put your installation at risk or flag it as unsupported. The fourth thing that you need to do is register your phone system. You can do this from this section. We click register. We specify a name for the phone system, for example, my phone system. We specify an IP address. In this case, we can use an FQDN as well. Then the friendly name, which can be, for example, extension 200 for auth ID, password. We enter all the details of the extension that we will register. These are the SIP credentials. We provide guides explaining how to get this information from 3CX phone system or from FreePBX, but any other SIP capable PBX can work with SIP-Caller. Finally, we can specify here how many simultaneous calls we want to make. This is a maximum limit. SIP-Caller will never make more calls than the number that we specify here through this particular extension. In some cases, we want to create or register more than one extension in SIP-Caller, and this way we can run different campaigns through different extensions in your PBX. For example, in this case, we will specify that we want no more than 10 calls at the same time through this extension. We register the PBX, and we will see here in the dashboard once this phone system is registered. This is automatically refreshed after a few seconds. So this should be green in any moment. Okay, there we are. The phone system has been registered. The next step now is defining a call flow. A call flow is the sequence of actions that SIP-Caller will execute once the call is connected to the final destination. So we provide two ways of defining a call flow. We can create the call flow from a template, or we can create it with the designer. The template is the easiest way to create a call flow because it provides predefined actions, and you just need to complete a few properties. If the templates that we provide are not for the scenario that you need to implement, then you can use the designer. The designer gives you all the flexibility that you need. You can arrange all the actions in the order that you need, configure them with the properties that are good for your call flow, and you have all the flexibility in this way. For this demo, we will create it using a template, and you will see here that we provide templates for the most common use cases. For example, the play prompt template lets you just play a prompt as soon as the call is answered and provide a message to the customer. after that the call will be dropped. The prompt that we play can be a WAV file that you can upload here, or you can also just enter the text and we will automatically convert this text to speech. To do this, we use Google Cloud, so you have plenty of languages and voices for your messages. Other option could be, for example, transfer call. This template lets you just transfer the call as soon as it is answered by the destination. So if you want, for example, to make calls and then transfer the calls to a queue of agents, this is something that you can use. The call will be transferred as soon as it's answered by the destination. In this case, prompt and transfer, you can play a prompt just before transferring the call. Once the prompt playback finishes, the call is transferred to the destination you define. Or you can also define here in the play prompt and transfer on the TMF template, you can define that the transfer should only happen after the user has pressed a specific DTMF key. In this case, for example, you can tell the user to press 1, for example, to be transferred to an agent if they are interested in your proposal, and only the users that press 1 will be transferred. So your agents will receive calls from people that are really interested in your product. You will see that we provide different templates. Something important when defining the call flows is that we can automatically detect if the answering endpoint is an answering machine or a human. This way we can filter out calls made by answered by an answering machine and only send to your agents calls connected to a human. We can do this automatically by analyzing the speech in real time and perform a speech analysis. This is something that we can do because we have access to the RTP stream in real time. This is something that you will not be able to accomplish if you are, for example, using a call flow designer dialer with 3CX phone system. Okay, so for this demo we will use the survey template and we will create a survey so we can ask a few questions to the user and we can collect data, and we will show you how this information is shown in the reports that we provide later. So in the first place we need to enter a name for this call flow, survey call flow, for example. This will be the name of the call flow. We click next, and the next step is specifying the prompt, the welcome prompt to play. The welcome prompt is the initial prompt that will be played as soon as the destination answers the call. This is not yet a question, so it's more like a salutation. We can specify something like hello, customer name. Please note here that we are using a variable here between brackets. This variable will be replaced by the actual customer name when we upload the numbers to call. So in using this technique, we can provide a different salutation message for each destination so they feel more comfortable with it. So they will feel that the call is really for them. We are calling you regarding the call you recently had with us. So this is the purpose of this survey. So we click next and we go to the section where we define the questions to ask. The first question that we will define is, please rate the call using a number between 1 and 5. And we will provide only the valid options as numbers between 1 and 5. Then we can add another question here. So for example, we can specify, did we resolve the issue for which you called? Please enter 1 for yes or 2 for no. We set the valid options as 1 or 2. If the user enters a digit that is not a valid digit, the question will be repeated up to 3 times. After this, after this, the question will be skipped and we will move to the next action. In this case, the final action that we need to configure is the goodbye message. In this case, we can specify thanks for your answer, have a nice day. And this way we have our call flow defined here. Now that we have a call flow, the next step and final step is creating our campaign. The campaign is where we define how calls should be made, when calls should be made, and which numbers should be called. The first thing we need to define is a name for the campaign. We specify the phone system here that we want to use and the extension that we want to use for this campaign. In the working time section, we can specify when the campaign should start, when the campaign should end. If we want to specify holidays, holidays are defined here in the settings section, so you can define in which dates SIP-caller should not make calls. Usually not make calls, but actually we will follow the schedule that you define here in Sunday and holidays. So for example, maybe in Sundays or holidays you want to make calls in the morning or in the afternoon. Okay, you can define it here. But when the current date is a holiday, instead of using the configuration for the day of the week, the holiday configuration will be used. The time zone is where all the information from the campaign will use this time zone that you specify here. A campaign can have, for example, in a company where you have multiple branches in different countries, you might want to run some campaigns using a time zone and other campaigns in a different time zones. All the configuration here will follow the time zone that you define here, and also all the reporting will be shown adjusted to the time zone of the campaign. So here we can specify easily add or remove some time frames, and we can easily copy the information from left to right, for example, and this way easily configure during what times of the day we want the calls to be made. In the behavior tab, we can specify different things related to how calls should be made and what to do when the call is answered. So for example, here in the call prefix, we can specify a prefix that should be added to every number before it's dialed. So for example, you can add a 9 prefix, and this is used to reach a specific outbound rule or to reach a specific zip trunk. This is something that you can specify here. Then you have the ring timeout, which is for how long the destination should be ringing before considering the call as no answer. How many times we want to try to call each number. We will automatically retry calls that are not considered successful this number of times, and before retrying a call we will wait the time that we specify here in the min retry interval. So for example, in this case, if we have a call which was busy or not answered, then we will wait 1 hour before trying to call this number again. Next, we define the human answer call flow and the answering machine call flow. This is what I mentioned a few minutes before. We can automatically detect if the destination answering the call is a human or not, and we can execute a different call flow depending on that. So if a human answers the call, we can, for example, execute this survey call flow that we just defined. So we will make the survey only to real people. But if the call is answered by an answering machine, we can just drop the call, as in this example, or we could configure here a call flow to play a prompt and leave a message in the voicemail, for example. Here with this toggle we can specify is if calls answered by an answering machine should be retried or not. In some cases, if we, for example, define in the answering machine call flow that we are leaving a message in the voicemail box, maybe that's considered successful from the perspective of the user. So we should switch this off and those calls should not be retried. In our case, as we want to do this survey to every customer, if the call is answered by an answering machine, we will retry this call, so we toggle this on. Finally, here we have a list, a drop-down list to select the language. These are all the languages supported by Google Text-to-Speech. So you can choose a voice from any of these languages. To make the selection easier, you select the language first, and once you have the language selected in this text-to-speech voice, you can select one of the voices available for that language. So for example, you have female voices, you have male voices, and you have different types of voices like standard, polyglot, news, neural. All these types of voices, the differences are explained in the Google documentation, but mostly these neural voices are extremely good. They sound like a human, really. So we will select, for example, this one, which is a female voice, and all the text that need to be converted to speech will use this voice for this campaign. In this blacklist option here, we can define numbers that should not be called. The blacklists are defined here in the settings section. For example, some countries have do not call lists that are provided by the government, and companies should check those lists and do not call the numbers from those lists. Using this blacklist feature, you can create your blacklist here in the settings section and just select the blacklist here. This way, when you need to upload the numbers to call, you don't need to worry about if those numbers are in the do not call list, because if the number matches what you have defined in the blacklist, those numbers will not be called. Okay, so once we have all the campaign configured, the general information, working times and behavior, we click save here, and it will be time to add the numbers. Here we have two ways of adding numbers. The add numbers option is an option that lets you upload numbers from a text file, or you can also add numbers by copying and pasting the details from anywhere you have them. The add contact list option lets you reuse an existing contact list. So for example, if your company has a set of customers that you call continuously, you can define this list of customers as a contact list. This is something that you will do from the settings section, defining your contact list, and then in the campaign you just add the numbers from the contact list. You don't need to upload all the numbers every time. You do it only once, and then you reuse that contact list. In this case, as we don't have any contact list defined, we will add the numbers from this section, and we have two options. We can upload a text file using the upload file option, or we can select the manual entry option, and this way we enter the numbers one by one in a text box. For simplicity here, as we will create a campaign to call 1,000 numbers, we will use the upload file. Here we have this drag and drop section, so we can drop a file here, and we will see a preview of the information taken from this file. In this file we have three columns. We have the phone number, we have the customer name, and we have a due balance. This is just a CSV file. The format is similar as what we have defined here. It's just a CSV file containing a first row with columns, which is optional actually, and then numbers with possibly some variables in the same line. Every line is a new record. It should start with the phone number to call, and after that you can define variables. Okay, so we will upload this file again. We go to the preview. The preview shows that we have phone numbers here, customer names here, and the due balance here. So we click add numbers, and we will start adding this. This has been added. We added 999 numbers to zip caller. We click accept, and the campaign will be ready to start. As you see, the status here is draft. This means that the campaign is still being prepared. The campaign will not start making calls yet. You need to activate the campaign to do that. You do this from this icon here. While the campaign is in draft state, you can still make changes. If you decide that you want to change the date and times, or you want to change the working hours, or you want to change adding numbers, removing numbers, whatever you want, you can do it while the campaign is in draft state. Once we activate the campaign, I will activate it now, you can only change a few settings, but not all of the settings. So for example, you can still change the working hours here, but for example, you can't edit the numbers. So here you will see that the add numbers is grayed out, and if you select those numbers, the delete button is also grayed out, so you cannot change this once the campaign has started. From the campaign section, anyway, if you think that you made a mistake or whatever, you can pause the campaign here at any time. You can cancel the campaign, and you can quickly access to real-time reports from here. If we go to the dashboard, we will see that we have one active campaign. There are no calls made today, not yet. The calls will start in any moment. We see here in the phone system section, we see our phone system listed, and we see that there are no active calls at this time. And we see here in the campaigns section the campaigns that are active or recently finished. We will see them here as well. And we have quick access to reports from here. We will see these reports in a moment. Let's wait a few seconds because this campaign should start in a moment. The campaign is active, but the zip caller contains a background service that will check when it's the moment to start making the calls. So this is something that will happen in any moment. Usually it can take up to 1 minute to start making calls. Here we have this expand button for the campaigns in the dashboard. If we click on it, we will see some details about what's going on with this campaign to have a quick overview. In this case, we see that 999 contacts have not been contacted yet because we didn't start making any call yet. So 100% of the calls are still not contacted state. So now we can see that we have 10 calls being made here, and we see all the numbers in this tooltip. Also here for the campaign, we can see the numbers being called for this campaign, and we are starting to see results. This is information in real time. We can see how many calls are answered, how many calls are in this case busy, if an answering machine was detected or a human answer was detected, the call outcome: 8 calls were successful and 11 calls need to be retried. So this will start adding information, and in real time we will see the progress. So here, for example, 97% not contacted, but we already have a few items here: retry pending or successful calls. Okay, so if we go to the call details report from here, we will start seeing all the information of the calls being made. This is a call by call detail. You will see the number that was called, the date and time in which the call started, the result, if the call was answered, if the call was busy, if the call was not answered, the SIP status code: 200 okay, busy here, no response here in the case of no answer. In the case of the call being answered, if the call was answered by a human or if the call was answered by an answering machine, how the call flow ended, the duration, and the gather data is the information that the user entered for any of the questions that we ask. In this case, remember that we had 2 questions. The first question was rating from 1 to 5, and the second question was providing an answer as 1 or 2, depending on if the call resulted in a successful response. So these call details report lets us also filter information by different fields. So for example, if you want to get all the calls answered with human answer, we select this, and here we will have all calls with answer type human answer. Or we can also say, okay, I want calls where we will remove this filter, and I would say I want calls where the outcome is failure. Well, there are no calls with failure. I will check retry pending. Okay, so all these calls have an outcome of retry pending, which, for example, here we have an answer call sent answered by an answering machine, or a busy call here, or a no answer call here. So it makes sense. All these calls are not successful, and we will have a retry after 1 hour. That's what we configured. You can also select which columns you want to show. So for example, you can specify the attempt number. You will see that this is the first attempt for all these calls. You can also filter by number. For example, if you are looking for calls from a specific number, you can enter the number here, and you will see all the attempts for that specific number. So this is a very useful report to understand what happened with a specific call in case you need it. And also you can export this information from here, and this will generate a CSV file with all this information, so you can import that later into another tool like Microsoft Excel, for example, for further processing. Another report that we have here is the campaign analysis. This report provides information about how the campaign is performing. So for example, here the first chart shows campaign progress. This is telling me that in the hour 7 p.m., which is now, we have 71 completed calls. We can click here for job pending, and this way we will see, okay, at this time we have 7% of the calls successful and made, and still pending 928 calls. This is something that will start evolving as the time goes by, and here in the PA chart we will see the details of the final snapshot. This contact progress chart is similar to this one, but provides more information, more detailed information. So here we just see if the call is successful or not. In this case, we can see why the call was successful or why it was not. For example, we see 71 calls successful, 88 calls retry pending. We see 10 calls being contacting right now, and we don't have any call in blacklist, and we don't have any call failure. It makes sense to don't have failure calls at this time, because failure means that all attempts have been consumed. In this case, as the campaign just started, all the numbers that we added still have retry attempts pending. So this is why you have this large number of retry pending contacts here. If we click here the show not contacted, this chart will also show this gray option with the not contacted records. This is something that you can show or hide, because usually when the campaign starts, the not contacted column is very big and hides all the other options. So in this case, maybe at the very beginning you can hide this so you can see the details, but when the campaign is close to get finished, you can show the not contacted will be much shorter, and the other options will have a bigger value. Next, we have this call flow diagram, which is very interesting to understand what's happening with calls, because this diagram, this is a Sankey chart which splits the calls depending on the result in each case. So for example, here we have 159 calls, and these calls are split as 104 were answered, that's 65%. Then we have 23 busy calls. Then we have 19 no answer calls, and we have 13 error calls. And then, for example, for the answer call, this is split in answer by a human and answer by an answering machine, sorry, here, and answer by a human here. And then this is split in call flow complete, or it can also be hung up if the user is who drops the call, and the final result, which can be success or retry pending. This is how calls are cataloged in each case depending on what's happening with those calls. Then we have another metrics which are very useful: the call result, how many calls we have answered, how many calls we have busy, how many calls no answer, how many calls resulted in an error. For answer calls, we have how many calls are answered by a human and how many calls are answered by an answering machine. Then we can see also the end types. Here in this case we have all calls that are reaching the end of the call flow, but this could also be that the user hangs up, so that's another option that we have here. The call outcome, if the call resulted in a successful result or failure, or if it still has retries pending. This is something that we can see hour by hour, and the final result here in this pie chart. Here we can see, for example, the SIP status code return. This can be very useful information to understand what's going on with calls. 200 OK means that the call is answered. 486 means that the call was busy, and well, we have different error codes or successful codes, and you will see all the details here. This information is also something that you can see graphically here in a chart, or you can click show details, and this will convert the information to a grid, and you have all the details here hour by hour. This is something that you can export, so you will have the information in a CSV file, so you can process this in a different tool if needed. This is something that is available everywhere. For all the charts, you have the option to see the chart or the grid containing the data. Okay, and on top of the report, you have options to show charts. One chart per row, for example. All the charts will be shown in a single row, or you can change the layout and see two charts per row. You can select which charts are useful for you. Maybe you're not interested in this and this, so you can turn those off and keep only the charts that you are interested in. This lets you group the information hour by hour, day by day, week by week, so you can change how this information is shown, is grouped. And you can also select here the time, the dates for which you want to run the report. If you want to reduce, for example, you have a campaign that was running for a week, then you can check what happened in a single day or 2 days in the middle. You can select from here the time frame in which you want to get your report. And finally, here we have the input results report. This input results report is something that gives you information about the input provided by the user. In this case, we have 2 questions in the survey. So for example, here we have question 1, please rate the call using a number between 1 and 5, and we have the options provided by the user. We have 33.9% for option 1, 17.8% for option 2, and so on. You can see all the details of the options selected by the users grouped here. In the pie chart, we have the final snapshot, and here you have hour by hour what happened with that. In this case, we have the second question. Did we resolve the issue for which you called? Press 1 for yes, 2 for no. And again, we have 44% for option 1, 55% for option 2. As always, you have the option to show the data and export the data, or you can show the charts. And here you have the option to show or hide the none option in case the user selected didn't select any option. And this input result diagram here is also another Sankey chart, which provides a visual view of how the options were pressed by the user. So for example, here we have 181 people, 181 calls that provided answer for question 1, 43 people answer 1, 32 answer 2, 40 answer 3, and this is how the first question was answered. And then all these go to the second question, and this is how the second question is answered. 80 calls for question 2 answer the option 1, and 100 calls, 101 answer option 2. Here we have again the same options to group the information in a different way. Select how which charts we want to show, which charts we don't want. We can reorder the charts, so we can, for example, put this at the bottom. This is something that we can configure, and also the layout if you want one chart per row or two charts per row. And after we select this, we can expand or collapse each chart independently. Okay, so this is all information that we can see from the reports. In the dashboard, we can also see some of this. This is like a brief overview of what's happening with calls. The dashboard shows the progress, and we can also run an automatic estimation here. It didn't run yet, but at some point here we estimate when the campaign will end, depending on the simultaneous calls that you are allowed to make, and the numbers that you have and everything. We make a complex calculation, and we can tell you when the campaign will end, so you know if you will be on time for that or not. Okay, so finally here in the settings section, you have options to configure, for example, here in the users section, you will be able to invite other users to your account. This way you can have some people working as with a specific role, for example, operations manager. Then this user will be able to manage the campaigns but will not be able to touch anything related to billing, for example. You can define different profiles for different users, and also you can define different teams. So for example, you specify a team for sales and a team for marketing, and the campaigns that are for the sales team are not visible by the marketing team. This is something that you can configure here from the users section. In the profile section, you define your language. Currently we only support English and Spanish, but at some point we will add other languages as well, and all the user interface will be automatically translated to the language that you select here. You can configure notifications if you want to get notification in specific cases, like when a campaign starts, a campaign finishes, you will receive an email with details related to that. Well, holidays is where you define the holidays. This is what I mentioned. You can create a holiday here, for example, Italian holidays, and then you create a date here, Labor's Day, and you select May 1st every year, save, and you have your holiday group for Italian holidays. For example, if you have if your account, your company works from multiple countries, for example, and you're defining campaigns for multiple countries, here you can define holidays for different countries, and when you define your campaign, you can specify the holiday here for the country in which this campaign is running. Okay, so this is here we have the contact list, which is something that I mentioned earlier. This is similar to the numbers to call that we added. These are reusable lists. So for example, we can type here premium contacts. So this is my list of premium contacts, and I can add numbers here. I can select a CSV file in the same way I did when I added these numbers for the campaign, and this is my premium contacts list. So I have now 1,000 numbers, almost 999 numbers, and this premium contacts list can be easily imported to any campaign. So I don't need to add all the numbers one by one every time. You have the list of contacts here, and you reuse that in different campaigns. From here, this is the section where you define blacklist. For example, do not call Italy. This is a list of numbers that you should not call. So at this point you can specify numbers that you will not call. So those numbers are numbers that you should not call because they are registered in some government list that the regulation of the country forbids that you call them. So if you call those numbers, you will have a fine. So you can define those numbers here, and this way you assign this to the blacklist. You define it here, and this way you will not be calling those numbers. You are sure that you are not calling those numbers. Okay, so this is pretty much it. From the report section you have access to the reports that I showed you before. Here you can select the campaign and you have access to all those reports. So, well, this is a basic introduction of what SIPColor can do. As you can see, this is a platform that is very powerful and provides a lot of features, information, reports out of the box. You don't need to spend time creating all this. If you want to do this, for example, for 3CX phone system using a call flow designer application, it's extremely difficult to actually it's impossible to create such a complex dialer, but even if you do and create some of the features, creating all this will take ages. All this reporting, all this retrying logic, answering machine detection, call flow definition. Here in the call flow definition, I showed you how to create a call flow using a template. If you want to create it using a designer, here you have a drag and drop interface in which you can define, for example, well, DTMF input. I want to ask for with this main prompt, I will tell please enter your option, and in the error prompt I can say your input is invalid. And here we define, okay, what happens if the user presses the option 1. If the user presses the option 1, then I transfer the call to a queue on extension 800, for example. But if the user enters an invalid, I can just drop the call. I can specify here an input name, which is my input, and I can specify which options are valid and how many digits I want to accept, min digits, max digits, how much time I should wait for the input, the number of attempts that the user has to enter the input, etc. You have much more flexibility in this way, and you also have drag and drop functionality if you want this to go, for example, you want to play this prompt before this transfer, you drag this here like this. Well, you have a lot of flexibility when you create a call flow using this designer call flow. So here you have it. Well, this is a brief introduction to the product. I hope that it's something that you find useful. Please do not hesitate to contact me in case of having any questions, or if you want to have a live demo with real calls to your own numbers. We are available to assist in anything that you might need. Thank you for watching.